Good morning, Linda here, and welcome to Yoga Clip number 16. This is a series I'm calling Mornings on the Mat, and today we're working on deep stretches for the lower body. And of course, you don't have to do it in the morning, but anytime during the day that your body needs some extra stretching, which might alleviate aches or pains, this would be a good thing to do. We'll be doing quite a bit of mat work, but very little putting any pressure on your knees. So if you're not able to kneel, you should be able to do this quite well. And the props that you're going to need are a strap, 2 blocks, a bolster, and a towel. So I'm just going to switch my view over to my other camera, and we'll be starting out lying on our backs, and make sure that you've got all your props within easy reach. And we'll be using the strap right away. So have that right beside you. And I'll see you there in a second. I forgot to mention that we'll also need a chair, but for now I have mine just tucked right out of the way. So make your way down onto the mat to lie on your back in whatever way you like, whether you touch your knees down or not, and just come to get really comfortable. Take a few breaths just lying back, getting yourself into a good position. And you can have your feet flat on the floor with your knees bent, or you can have your legs spread out somewhat, whatever you prefer. And you might just focus on your breath for a moment as you wiggle around, getting comfortable. You might have your arms resting out to the side as you pick up your knees and lift your legs up. We'll start to move your legs around in whatever way you like. And then you might add your arms also, lifting your hands and feet up towards the ceiling. And you might just be doing completely random movements, or you might be doing something like moving your right arm and leg up and your left arm and leg down opposite each other, just whatever feels good to you right now. Take everything at your own pace in this module. And you're just using this as a bit of a warm-up. So see what you feel like you'd like to do. And take another couple of breaths here. And then reach for your strap, putting your left foot down, either flat on the floor or extending your leg out a bit with your heel down, or your leg all the way down. You have that option. And with your strap, pick up your right foot and wrap the middle of the strap around the ball of your right foot, pressing your heel up towards the ceiling and holding on to the strap right now with both hands on the ends of the strap. And start out just pressing your heel up, maybe bringing your toes a little closer to your shin, starting to wake up your hamstrings. And then start to do some circling around, letting a lot of the momentum come from your arm power as you move the strap around. And you might go from a small circle to a medium size, or you might make it really big. See what feels right to you right now as we start to wake up our hips. And after you've done maybe 4, 5, 6 circles, you might switch and go the other direction for a few. And then bring your foot back to center. Take both ends of the strap in your right hand, and you might shorten up your grip on this. And I like to have my left arm and left heel pressing down. As I do this, turn your right toes out to the right and then lower that leg, stretching it out to the right. And you might bring your right arm down low enough that your elbow can rest on the floor. Really feel a stretch along your hamstring here. And keep those toes turned. Take another breath or two here. And then turn those toes back in, bring your leg back. And then take the strap back into both hands and put your left foot into the strap, lowering your right leg down now. And press that left heel up to start. And then start to circle around with your second leg. And you might notice this leg feeling the same or different from your first leg. That's just something to notice. And then when you're ready, switch to going a few times the second direction. And then take both ends of that strap into your left hand, shorten up and bring that arm down onto the floor, pressing down your arm and leg on the right side. And turn your left toes out, reaching that leg out. For a deeper stretch, you could actually try and move that leg up higher, closer to your shoulder. Really feel that hamstring stretch. Whew. Another breath or two here. And then bring this leg back in, turning your toes back in. And bringing that leg down, setting the strap aside. And you might windshield wipe your knees a couple times. And then eventually pick up those knees. And you could hold in front of your shins or behind your thighs. And you might just stay still, or you might rock a bit side to side. And then bring your feet back down onto the floor. Setting your feet down about hip distance apart, inner hip distance apart, with your heels kind of close to your bum. And then bring your arms down right beside your side body. As we come into bridge, this is a great pose for opening your chest and shoulders, as well as strengthening your glutes. Roll your shoulders down and keep the top of your shoulders down on the floor. Keep thinking of broadening across your back that's on the floor. Try and keep your legs parallel to each other. As you press into your feet, lift your pelvis up. Try and pull your legs towards each other, squeezing your glutes. Keep pressing down with your shoulders and your feet, lifting up. And try and reach along from your neck out through your knees as they reach away. Try and hold this for another 2 to 3 breaths. Squeezing those glutes and keeping your pelvis up. Then softly lower each vertebrae down. Until they come back into position on the mat. And then you might just take a breath here, resting. And then hug your knees back up again when you're ready. Lengthening out your low back here. Maybe rocking a bit or staying still. But eventually, over the next couple of breaths, make your way over to lying on one side. And here you might extend your arm to let your head rest down. Take a couple of breaths here before gently making your way up to sitting. And now we'll make our way over to sit on top of the bolster. You can pull your bolster in. And I like to lift myself up a little, being a bit more sturdy, having a block to sit on top of, or you could even have two side by side on the lowest height. So I'm just going to set this down here and then lift myself up to sit on that. And you can make your way over to your structure however you like. And sit with your feet fairly wide. You can have your hands resting on your legs or down on the bolster or anywhere you want. Have your feet fairly parallel to each other. And then start with your left leg, rolling it up onto the outside edge of your foot and seeing how far your hip will let you go with this. And then roll it in. And if you need a little bit more space for your legs and your belly, then you might just scoot your feet forward a little bit. I was just keeping mine back so you could see what I'm doing, but it's okay to have them out further. And just keep going, trying to bring this knee out, externally rotating. Bring the knee in, internally rotating. And just do this one leg at a time, back and forth. More work on your hip. And you could hold. And let's just do one more on this leg. And then start out with the other leg. Notice how this hip feels compared to the other one. And you might notice that by looking at how far you can lift your foot up. Talks about your outer hip mobility. And let's just continue on. And you could tie the in and outs in with your breath if you like. Whichever way you find easier, do the inhale that way and the exhales for the harder part. I guess maybe for me, going to the inside is the harder part. All right, let's come to a stop with that. And now we're going to move our towel over into place so that we can come down and sit with our bums on this towel. Your strap can be set aside. Bring your other block that you're not, if you have one block you're not using, bring that over to the right side. And then as you slide off your bolster to sit on your towel, bring the other block over here as well. And you can just move your bolster out of the way. So turn your body over so that your legs are pointing towards these blocks on this side. So if the blocks are on your right side, then point your right thigh straight out of your hip. If your blocks are on your left side, then you'll be doing this with your left leg. And as you point that leg straight out, then bend your knee. Let me just move this leg out of the way. Bend your knees so that this shin is parallel to the front edge of your mat, And your foot is out to the right. This is if you're doing this with your left leg. And then with your other leg, send that leg out to the right and have a bend in that knee. So you have a 90-degree bend in this leg at your knee joint. Same with this one. And you may be leaning on your hand out to the side. That's fine. Then walk yourself forward with your blocks on their medium height so that you can put your forearms on the blocks. And you may need to have your blocks slightly over to the left if you're leaning forward onto your left leg. And what you're hoping to feel is a stretch on the hip that you're leaning on. So you may notice that you could come down a little bit lower. So you might turn the blocks down onto the low height. You might even bring your forearms all the way down onto the floor and really feel a deep stretch here. And once you find that good spot, just keep your back and neck neutral, looking down at the mat or your hands. And if you're finding that you've got a little bit of belly tissue here, that with your leg right underneath you, that's not very comfortable, you could slightly twist yourself over further to the left so that you have a bit more room for your belly to clear that. You still get the full advantage of the hip stretch if you do that. Let's take 2 more breaths here. This is a version of pigeon pose called 90-90 pigeon. Well, it's just because of the angle you have in your legs. And now lift back up with your hands, pressing down. Bring your blocks with you as you turn back to the front. And it does make it a little bit easier sitting on the towel than just being flat on the mat. Gives you a little bit more space there. And then move your blocks over to your second side. Turn your body over to this side. So whichever leg you didn't do before, point that side and knee right towards your blocks and bend that knee so your foot's coming out to the side. And then send your other leg out to the side and your foot to the back. And you may already know what height you'd like to start with your blocks on, or you can experiment again on this side. I can definitely notice that I can move the blocks lower now than when I started doing this exercise. So you may notice that over time. And just adjust your blocks to be in a good spot for you. If it's available to you, then you might work your way down lower. But if not, you just stay at the level that you're feeling that deep stretch. I think this is the first time with this hip that I've been able to go all the way down to the mat. So over time, it is making a difference. Take another couple of breaths here. This is a really strong stretch. And walk your hands back up so that you can sit up. And from here, we're going to switch into a downward facing dog. So you could come onto your knees to start that, and you could keep the towel here underneath your knees. You could also use the blocks under your hands. And if you do that, I think they work best on medium height because you can easily hold the block with this side of your hand, whereas if you hold it with this flat side, it's a little bit harder to grip. So you could set that up to do that. If you don't want to put your knees down, then I think you can just work your legs together, being on your side hip. Get your hands in place and then press your feet down and lift up. Downward facing dog's great for stretching out your back, your legs, as well as your chest, shoulders, arms. So you might just take a few breaths here, stretching, pressing into your hands and pushing back, stretching your back and maybe lowering your heels down towards the floor, one at a time or both at the same time, stretching out the back of your legs. Just take a few breaths here, doing what feels good to you. Keep your head and neck in between your arms in a restful position. And then walk your hands and legs towards each other. And you could have your feet hip distance apart, or if they're wider, that's fine too. If your towel's there, just move it out of the way. Let's see if you can stay in a forward fold for a few breaths. Lean back a bit into your heels, feeling a stretch along your hamstrings, and releasing your head down towards the floor. And then you can press into your feet, bend your knees, walk your hands up onto your thighs as you inhale your way right up to standing. All right, that's great. Give yourself a chance to take a breath as you come up to standing. And then when you're ready, find your chair and bring it onto the mat. I'm going to do a few squats. And you could squat down to the chair seat, or you could just squat out away from the chair. Either way is fine. To get yourself ready for squatting, a lot of people might have their feet parallel or with their toes slightly turned out. I tend to do it with my feet a little wider and my feet a little more turned out. This is a lot to do with my ankle injury. So experiment and see what feels good to you. And then with your feet in that position that you're trying out, try and drag your right leg back as if you're scraping gum off your shoe. And then drag your left leg back and try and hold that engagement of the back of your legs as you do your squat. Keep your hips squared, and you might like to have your hands in a basket in front of you on your hips, or bringing your arms forward, back as you stand up, forward as you squat down. And try and imagine that you have writing on the front of your shirt, that when you squat down, you want to make it that someone looking at you could still read what your shirt says, so that you're not bending over like this, but somewhere in between. So now let's try this, getting a little close to your chair. If you want to use your chair, you don't have to. Gently pull your heels together, engage those legs, dragging them back. Feel that gum under your shoe. Get your hands in the position you want and slowly lower down. Just to where your bum touches the chair, or you can just do it without the chair seat. Let's try and do about 5 more. And as you come up, squeeze your glutes together at the top, or squeeze each glute muscle individually. Not necessarily that they're coming right together in the middle. And you could try experimenting with going more slowly, holding at the bottom. These things will make it a bit more challenging. Try and keep that engagement on the back of your legs. This is really great for your legs, your ability to sit down and stand up, and strengthening your glutes. Let's say we do one more. Well, give yourself a nice little wiggle. And now we're going to do a high lunge. And you can do this either starting out leaning onto the chair seat, or you can use 2 blocks. So I'm going to demonstrate the first side using the chair seat, and for the second side, I'll use the blocks. If you're already familiar with the blocks and you want to do that, go right ahead. So we'll start out standing in mountain pose in front of the chair seat. Inhale here, and as you exhale, hinge at the hip to bring your hands down onto the chair seat. Leave your left toes close to the chair, pointing towards the chair, and step back with your right foot. With your feet wide enough apart that it feels like you are on 2 separate railroad tracks. And check your front knee to make sure that it has up to a 90-degree bend and your knees are right above your ankle. You can have a bend in your back leg as well. And then start to walk your way up your leg to bring your hands onto your hips. Pull your legs together, engaging both legs. And from here, as you take a breath, you might be able to raise your arms in front of you. And you might keep them here, gazing between your hands as you hold this pose. Or you could even wrap your glutes down as you lift your arms slightly above you. Whichever position your hands are in, press down into your feet, lift up through the top of your head, lift up and out through your fingertips. And you may gaze through your hands. Oh, keep pulling your legs together, firm your glutes. And then as you exhale, lower back down to the chair seat. Bend into your back leg and step that forward. And now I'll just move this out of the way to do the version with the blocks. Right here. Set your blocks on the high height, one on either side. Inhale as you gaze forward. Forward fold as you exhale, bringing your hands down onto the blocks. And step your left foot back. And then you just do the same procedure. Walk your hands up your thigh onto your hips, knowing that you have the blocks there for support if you need them. Pull your legs together. Keep the back of your legs engaged, your legs solid. Lift up your torso. And on an inhale, swing your arms up in front of you, maybe stopping about here. Or if you'd like to lift them up higher, wrap your tailbone down to keep your low back comfortable. And you may sway a bit side to side. Keep squeezing your legs, engage your glutes. Keep your torso tall. Press into your feet, reach up through your fingertips, reach up through the top of your head. Feel a little lightness as you do this, giving you more ease in holding the pose. And then exhale your way back down, folding yourself down till your hands are sturdy on the blocks. Bend your knee and step forward. And then inhale your way up to standing. And you may move your blocks out of the way. And now recovery. So you may start out taking a bit of a wider stance and do sort of a recovery squat from side to side. And you could keep this up as long as you like. And you could also try circling your hips. You might be doing a half circle. You might circle around like a hula hoop. And you might circle sort of like you're doing a figure eight or any combination of these. And this is the end of our lower body deep stretches. I hope you've enjoyed this module, find it useful, and something that you might come back to again and again. Even if you only do some of the poses that appeal to you, could be really worthwhile for you. Enjoy your day. Take care. Bye now.